when isn't real estate interesting, right? But right now, it's really interesting that you've kind of got something special going on with your business that isn't like everyone else. You've got something kind of special going on, even like with Zillow. Or share a little bit about that.
We are now the top rated Zillow team in the country.
Yeah.
It's humbling. But we've been really intensely focused on quality and doing the right thing for the customer. And this is a very, very challenging market right now. It used to be you'd work with somebody for a few weeks and you'd sell them a house. Well, now you got to sell them a house like 10 times because they have to keep, trying again and again because there's multiple offers, and it's a really weird situation.
I was reading an article the other day about they're calling it the Great Resignation. So many people are going to opt out of the jobs they were in the past, and they talk about how so many people who were in other jobs now are going to do things like real estate. And of course, when something's hot like real estate, people start to jump in. Well, welcome to Connections. I'm Glen Gould, and I have with me today one of my dear friends, Jake Mullins. Jake, thanks for being with us today and sharing a little bit about you and about what you do and how you impact the community. I'm really glad you're here today.
I think I'm most excited to hear now I'm one of Glen Gould's dear friends.
Well, that's you are. I mean, we met a couple almost a year ago now. I guess a little over a year ago now. And it was kind of interesting the way we met because I met your wife first, Kelly,
Yep.
And that was because she was showing us some homes.
Yep.
And then I met you through your Beer and Business podcast, which hopefully we'll get into a little bit here.
Yep.
But first of all, just so our viewers can learn a little bit about you, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and. You've got so many different interests, so just kind of give us an overview.
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur and unemployable, so I've been told.
Yeah.
Which I know you can.
Me too.
You can relate to.
Yeah.
So I've been involved in several businesses over the years, but I did spend 15 years at AT&T becoming a corporate guy and learned a lot of great skills about how to manage and some of the operational rigor that it takes to be an entrepreneur that can actually run a business.
Sure.
And so most recently, we decided that it was time for us to go back into business for ourselves. And I left that corporate world behind, and we started a real estate company, which pays the bills. And so my wife and I just started out as individual agents, and we have been growing like crazy. And now we've got 13 agents
wow.
along with us.
Right.
So we're growing at a pretty rapid clip, and it's been a pretty wild ride. So
yeah. So one of the things you've told me that I think people who are watching, I mean, like right now, I mean, when isn't real estate interesting, right? But right now, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things you've shared with me and with some of the folks that do know you is that you've kind of got something special going on with your business that isn't like everyone else. You've got something kind of special going on, even like with Zillow or in organizations like that. Share a little bit about that.
Well, the reason why we started to grow a team and to bring agents on to work with us is because Zillow asked us to. So we used to be a Zillow advertiser, and they changed their model to more of a partnership model where if you take one of their leads and you close, it's, we win together, so they get
right.
a piece of the revenue. And we were doing a very good job, and they said, we want you to grow a team. So I'm like, okay, we should grow a team. And we did. And so the very long story short is we are now the top rated Zillow team in the country.
Wow.
Right here in our little old community, which is crazy to me. It's still like we just met with our advisor today, and he's telling us like, man, you guys are at 95% experience score. Nobody's ever done that before. No team has ever done that.
Yeah.
It's humbling. But we've been really intensely focused on quality and doing the right thing for the customer. And this is a very, very challenging market right now. So if you know a real estate agent that's helping somebody, give them a pat on the back, because agents are working harder now than they've ever worked.
Right.
And I got mad respect for them because, it used to be you'd work with somebody for a few weeks and you'd sell them a house. Well, now you got to sell them a house like 10 times because they have to keep, trying again and again because there's multiple offers, and it's a really weird situation. It will correct itself.
Right.
There's a reason for that. There's a fundamental reason why we've got a shortness of inventory, which will get corrected. But right now, it's nuts.
Yeah. So one of the things that you mentioned there with being the number one Zillow team, I guess is what you would call it. I was reading an article the other day about they're calling it the Great Resignation. So many people are going to opt out of the jobs they were in the past, and I'm a member of a group online, the Chamber of Commerce executives from my previous life, and they talk about how so many people who are in other jobs now are going to do things like real estate. And of course, when something's hot like real estate, people start to jump in. I would imagine that if somebody was serious, I mean, not just somebody who's going to, hey, I'm going to give it a shot, but somebody that was serious, they might benefit from getting in touch with you and maybe joining your team. I mean, you're kind of on a roll.
Right. Well, I always, when people are talking about getting into real estate, I'll spend a lot of time, I'll spend days trying to talk them out of it, tell them it's the worst thing you could ever do in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're still interested after I try to talk you out of it, you're probably going to make it in this business.
Okay.
But it's funny. We're actually working to try to attract people to the business. You know the average age of a real estate agent in our community?
You know, I wouldn't even begin to guess, but I would have to think it's, probably pretty old.
Late 50s.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are going to be leaving this business over the next, and it's happened in the past year. So we need new blood, and I hate to say it, we need young blood.
Right.
Younger than me. I mean, so we need people coming into this business that have that energy and look at this as a career track because, with the average age being what it is.
A lot of them are going to be out of the business in another 5-10 years.
In the other reality too is that technology is really starting to play a bigger role in what we do.
Yeah.
And some of the agents that have been doing it for 30 years, it's not that they're unwilling to make the change to technology, but a lot of times it just outpaces them.
Yeah.
And so we do need young people in this business.
Sure. So I mean, obviously you've got a great real estate business going, and you've got that corporate experience. And I alluded to the Beer and Business podcast. So what's that all about?
So I love podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts for a long time,
Yeah.
Specifically business podcasts. In fact, I started listening to them when you actually put them on an iPod.
Why they call them podcasts to begin with, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's something that I really love. And this is a project that started about 3 years ago. And the whole genesis to this was I love podcasts. I love listening to them. But all the business podcasts I listened to had something in common, and that was they bored the living tears out of me.
They can't. They can sound like NPR shows.
I mean, there's some of them where it's like they start talking, and it's really great information. 3 minutes later, I'm daydreaming because I just can't follow the monotone voice. And so I thought, what if somebody did something that was fun, entertaining, and kind of snuck the business into it, or just made the learning kind of a byproduct. And so I thought, you know what, we should do that. So comedy show with business, and no better way to do that than over a beer. And so that way it kind of breaks down the barriers, makes it, nobody's really taking themselves too seriously. So I worked on the concept for a while, launched it. August will be 3 years.
Yeah.
So we launched the show. We've iterated the format a few times, but we've gotten to the place now where people really enjoy listening to it. And
right.
We get great feedback. And in fact, this week we interviewed Sean Dietrich, Sean of the South, and he's pretty well known, does interviews every week. And when we were done, he said, "This is the best podcast I've ever done."
Nice.
And so it's nice to hear that because we really have struck a chord. We're doing something that nobody else is doing.
Yep.
Still to this day, there's 2 million podcasts now available, and I can't find another one that does what we do. I mean, I was told in the beginning it's a stupid idea, comedy and business. Like, what are you thinking? But people enjoy listening, and so they keep tuning back in for some reason. They want to listen to us.
And you've kind of got a relationship with a local brewery?
I do, yeah. Line Creek Brewing, who's in our backyard.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are local, go to Line Creek. Please support our podcast, support Line Creek. All you have to do is drink delicious beer. I mean, I'm not asking for much.
That's right, yeah.
But they've been a great partner of the show. We do events out there.
And you do an event on Wednesdays now, a networking event of some sort?
Yeah, so
Is it every Wednesday or every third Wednesday?
Every second Wednesday.
Okay.
We will have an event. So it's on Line Creek's calendar. It's on our website, www.beer.business. You should come. It's great. It's a networking event. You do it over a beer, so it's not so, awkward. It's funny. So the whole premise of the show came about, and then I thought, we need to do networking events at breweries. And the reason why is because I went to a chamber event, and it was a business networking event at a funeral home.
Oh,
and I'm like, I walked in.
Well, I mean, they do try to find different venues to try to make it interesting.
The only good thing about it was the jokes. They just kept coming. But it was really awkward and quiet, and I'm like, we're seriously networking at a funeral home. So brewery's way better.
That.
You have a beer.
I missed that one.
Yeah, you have a beer. It's a great time. You meet a lot of cool people. Every time we do one, I meet new people.
Right.
And it's always in a great format where people are having fun.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I know I enjoyed being on the show, and I enjoy listening to it as well. So
you had a really good interview, so you should listen. Go to any podcast app.
Yeah.
Just search for Beer and Business. Find Glen's interviews. Very wise.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Check's in the mail.
Oh, good.
Okay, so now you're also an author.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit.
So I wrote a book called Adapted Leadership. I've always wanted to write a book. And it's one of those things where early in my career, I was taught about leadership style. And when you're taught leadership style from an academic or, pretty much anybody that's written a book on the subject, what they tell you is there's different styles of leadership. Some academics will say there's 7, some will say there's 13, but essentially you've got you've got the autocratic leader, which just, looks straight down. You got a participative leader that takes direction from the team. You got an inspirational leader. You got all these different types.
Sure.
And the whole premise is, as a leader, you're one of those styles. Well, I'd look at it and I'd say, well, gosh, sometimes my boss is this, sometimes my boss is a little of that, sometimes, and so nothing made sense. But most importantly, when I learn something, I want to be able to apply it. So anytime I'd learn about leadership style, it's like, okay, so that was interesting, so what?
Right.
What do I do with it? And the things that you would learn about application didn't actually work. So I started studying this topic for a while, and I learned that leadership style is fluid. And if you know enough about it, you can adapt to the situation or the business environment or the people that you're with.
Sure.
To get more out of leadership. Because I always start with this. Management is getting things done through others. But leadership is inspiring others to accept your goals as theirs. So it's engaging the body,
that's good.
Management, engaging the heart through leadership, right? So how do you use style to do that? Well, in the book, and what I learned over the years was that you can dial in certain attributes at different times to get the most out of leadership. I'll give you a great example. So if you were a field general in battle, and the enemy's coming in, and things are getting really hot, you're not going to go say, "Now, Glenn, I'm thinking about flanking over to the right. What do you feel about that? Do you think that's a good idea?" Well, no, you wouldn't do that. You'd be barking orders. It'd be very autocratic. It'd be direct. Your tone of voice would be strong. So you're dialing in those different style points in leadership to get what you need at that specific moment.
Right.
At other times, that general may be more participative when it comes to strategy or something like that. So that's what the book does. And over the years, what I did is I distilled that down into some very specific attributes that you can dial in and dial out at certain times. And it's been a fantastic book. I mean, for me, it was just something that I wanted to do. I always wanted to say, "Hey, I'm an author.
Yeah,
I wrote
exactly,
a book," But I got a lot of good feedback. In fact, I got a letter from the CEO of Chick-fil-A.
Nice.
Yeah, he said he read my book. Thanks for writing it. Keep up the good work.
That's awesome. So if somebody wanted to find the book, where would they?
They just go to Amazon or their favorite bookstore, Barnes & Noble, wherever, and just search for Adapted Leadership. Or you can search for my name, Jacob Mullins. You find me that way.
Great. All right, so now we've concentrated a lot on business. And with somebody like you, it's hard to not do that. I mean, you just kind of get in the flow. But tell us a little bit about your family, about how you ended up here and things like that.
Well, it's funny. I always said the last place in the world I would ever live is Atlanta, Georgia. And here
really?
I am killing it.
Yeah, there you go.
I came here for business because AT&T was headquartered in Atlanta.
Where were
Hated
you
the
from?
traffic. From Ohio.
Okay.
So I never wanted to live in this area, but eventually I got moved here from the company, and we really liked the general area, but we weren't happy where we were. So when I left the company, we were trying to figure out where do we want to build a life for the rest of our life. You know what I mean? And so we chose this community, and I'm so glad we did. We absolutely love it here. My wife, we've been married for over 15 years. Mm-hmm. We have 3 kids, 12, 10, and 5. And I couldn't think of anywhere I'd rather live than here. And we built up such a great network of friends. Because I've moved my entire life. Mm-hmm. In fact, the longest I ever lived anywhere was 5 years, and we're getting ready to hit our 5th year here.
Right.
So I've lived like a nomad. I don't have family here. And for the first time in my entire life, I feel like I'm part of a community. I go to the store and I see people I know, and people know me, more importantly.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, remember me?
Yeah.
I don't know you. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got friends everywhere, and we built up a good network in our church. And so it's just, we love living here. I love to tell people about it, but I don't want to tell too many people because I don't want it to get too crowded.
Right.
Yeah, we enjoy
Well,
it.
you live right in between Peachtree City and Noonan in Sharpsburg, which is a great area to live in, and you can kind of have a little bit of country, but within 3 miles you're into the city again.
It's
And-
crazy. We
yeah.
have 10 acres, and I could be at Best Buy in 3 minutes. Like,
know.
like where do you get that?
Yeah, really, it's true. Yeah.
It is awesome. So we definitely have a little unique slice of the world here.
Very nice. I always ask folks what they like best about the community. You've kind of talked about that already, but for fun, I sometimes ask if you had to pick a favorite restaurant.
Ooh, if I had to pick a favorite restaurant, gosh, I don't want to upset anybody.
Well, then name a couple.
I'll name a few. So in Peachtree City, I love Palmer's.
Yeah, don't we all? Yeah.
Palmer's is amazing. They got a great patio. Just love the place. Owner's great. She came on our podcast.
Yeah.
I also really like Brick House in Noonan.
Mm-hmm.
If you like wings, you need to go to Brick House because it's amazing. I'm also into barbecue. So we've got several good barbecue joints in the area. We've got ones that have a lot of lineage like Sprayberries in Noonan. So there's just unfortunately I love food. So if you really want me to do this, we could probably sit here for about 10 minutes and I
Sure.
can name off a bunch of restaurants. But
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're working in a restaurant, thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right now, with this situation going on with staffing, a lot of people are taking advantage of unemployment, not working. I have heard a lot of people get frustrated because service is slow at restaurants, and don't think about the restaurant as much as think about the people that are working there because they are working long hours, and they're showing up.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
thank you to those that are showing up. I've been given a lot of big tips lately.
Yeah, and so have we. It's just what you do. It's unbelievable what most people don't really realize it, but one of the jobs that I think everybody ought to endure, and I mean it like that, is to wait tables.
Yes.
Because you'll learn so much about what it takes to serve people. A lot like selling cars. I feel the same way about that. But
Yeah.
So we've covered so much today, Jake, and I appreciate you coming in. Let's just circle back to the real estate business for one last thing, and that is, if somebody is wondering if now is the time to buy or sell, what would you share with them?
It's still, as crazy as a market is, it's still a buyer's and a seller's market, which is really
Yeah.
strange. It's a seller's market because value is, really strong. You're probably going to sell your house very quickly, and in most cases, multiple offers. So if it's done right, you'll be able to really maximize your equity. But it's still a buyer's market because, there's still inventory available. Even though it's light, it's there. Interest rates are incredibly low.
Yeah.
So it's one of those unique times where it's like you may look at it and say, well, gosh, I'm paying, top dollar for this house. But you're also getting that house at like 2.5% or 2.7%. And just a year and a half ago, that was 4.5%, 5%.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the dollar amount over the lifetime of a 30-year mortgage, it's like, oh,
It's a value.
okay, I get it now. So it's a really interesting time. If you do want to buy, I'd just tell you be patient and appreciate your agent because they're going to work very, very hard. And like I said earlier, they're probably going to have to sell you a house 10 times. But if you can endure that, if you've got the patience to do it right and get turned down when you put offers in until you finally get to the right one, it's still a good time.
And I'd imagine that's hard because I know from our experience when you kind of fall in love with a house and then you make an offer and it's kind of like, okay, I'm invested now. But I don't want to get too invested because it might not work out, and so it's almost become less passionate over the purchase of a particular house, and you got to be more passionate over the process.
It is 100% true, but it also helps to have an agent that knows some of the tricks, because we got some things up our sleeves that the average agent doesn't. So
Right.
I'm not giving away my secrets.
And I don't think you should. Obviously, if you are seeking an agent who can work with you and can show you the inside of the market and have some secrets that perhaps others don't, I strongly would recommend you reach out to Jake and Kelly Mullins. Jake, thanks so much for being in here today and sharing some ideas with us. I'll tell you, just my experience with you over the past year and your wife has just been spectacular, and I can't recommend you highly enough. So
thank you.
Once again, Jake and Kelly Mullins with Mullins Pro Realty and the Beer and Business Podcast and Adaptive Leadership.
And if you noticed how nice my shirt looks, it's because these guys do it.
Well,
so.
we're grateful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here today, Jake.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, everyone.
See
Bye
ya.
now.